Atari's been in the news, and today I'm going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, including them going on Republic and buying some old classic game franchises. So, first of all, here's a press release on their website from March 16th, 2023. It says Atari announces the acquisition of Berzerk and Frenzy IPs. Now, this is good. I like this. There was a while back, there was a time when they were selling old properties. They sold off Battlezone, and I didn't agree with that. I think they kind of wish they had it now so they could recharge that. They've been in like the business lately of recharging their games, right? Reimagining, making remakes of classic franchises and putting them on the Switch, on the PlayStation 4, on Steam, stuff like that. And Berserk, this is a good one. I think that it still has some name recognition. I know they already released a 2600 version on the VCS, and I know some people are happy with that. So I'm interested to see what happens with it. Now, they also said that they acquired 12 Stern titles, arcade titles in total. They don't mention them. And this is, in my opinion, maybe the bad, because a lot of these games that they acquired, they didn't list them, but you could kind of figure it out, okay? At least narrow it down. A lot of these games, they come from an era where you would have black backgrounds or pictures on the backgrounds, limited colors on screen, and often games were copies of other games, right? So like there'd be a lot of Space Invaders style games or Pac-Man maze games, but generally it was hard to really be noticed in the crowded arcade. So let's go look at on Wikipedia, which, of course is always 100% accurate, but let's look at some of their arcade games. Now, Stern is still into pinball. That's what they do today, so they probably didn't need these games, so hopefully Atari got these for a good deal. But let's go through. Now, some of these games, you could see they're like Konami games that Stern published, but they're really Konami games. So Astro Invader, probably not one of the 12, right? That's still Konami or Scramble or Turtles or Super Cobra. So let's look at the games that could be it. And I think 13 that I think could be. So most of these games will be a part of this. So Berzerk is definitely one of them. Moon War, I want to say that's like a asteroid style space shooter, if I remember correctly. And not a lot of these games you're probably like, what is that game? You may not even have heard of it before. Armored Car, this was a maze game where you drove an armored car collecting money and depositing it in the bank. Tasmania, now Frenzy is one of them for sure. Tasmania they may have gotten. That has nothing to do with Taz, the Warner Brother cartoon character. It's actually, from what I've seen, it looks like a Robotron style game. So, of course, Tunankam and Puyan, these are Konami games. Dark Planet, it says designed by Eric Erickson and Dan Langlos. I don't know if that means that they own it. Maybe not, but this was like an overhead kind of space shooter game, and I think they used like an overlay or something to give it a 3D effect in the arcade. Rescue, not familiar with Rescue. Calypso, I looked at this a little bit, and so this was released by another company, but it's probably a Stern game. Calypso, if you remember Shark Attack for the Atari 2600, it's like that, where you're like a diver in an underground or undersea maze. Anteater might be one of the more popular or well-known games that Atari may have gotten. This is where you're like an anteater on the top of the screen, and you're controlling this tongue, trying to eat the ants and avoid other things in an underground, kind of like an ant maze. Mazer Blazer. This is, it's a gun game. I don't think it's a light gun game. It was a game, but there was like a gun controller, and I think it just controlled a cursor that moved around the screen. Lost Tomb. I think this was like an overhead. This is actually Lost Tomb. I think this is kind of like Berserk, except you're in a pyramid going from room to room, collecting treasures, shooting spiders and stuff. These other games wouldn't be it. Bagman. Now, I don't think Bagman would be it. The Bagman has some name recognition value amongst some diehard retro fans. Still not a very popular game. That would probably be one of the bigger names that they would get, but I don't know that that's counted. I didn't count it as one of the 13 titles. So these two games are Jalico and Sega, so I won't count them. Minefield, I think that's like almost like a Moon Patrol style game. Then we have Cliffhanger. Now this is a Laserdisc game, and it used footage from Lupin the third, I think it is, a Japanese anime, so that's not going to count. And I don't think Goals to Go is going to be one of them. That was a football laser disc game. Great Guns is another gun game. It may not be a light gun game, but just a mid 80s gun game, and then Super Bagman. So I don't count that. So like those are the titles. So let me just go over them real quick. I think there's 13 of them. So 12 of these, I'm guessing. I could be wrong. Let me know if you think there's something I'm missing. So it could be Great Guns, Minefield, Lost Tomb, Mazer Blazer, Anteater, Calypso, Rescue, Dark Planet, Tasmania, Armored Car, Moon War, Berzerk and Frenzy. I think that's 13. And so that's kind of the bad, is none of these have big name recognition. I don't think this is going to really excite a lot of general gamers, even if they recharged them. They could put this all in a compilation if they wanted a Stern compilation. You know, that would be kind of interesting to me. Now let's talk about the ugly, and that's their Republic campaign. So they have this Atari game pool campaign, and I'm not against people opening, doing investments and stuff like that, but there's a couple reasons why I'm not excited about this. So they have 50 investors so far. They've raised $125,000. They're looking for $1 million. They have 140 days left. This started in early February, this campaign did, and they do have rewards. If you give them $500, you'll get a limited edition t-shirt. And if you give them $5,000, you'll get a limited edition Atari 2600 game cartridge of Fatal Run. So that's kind of interesting, but they don't really say what games that this goes towards. So the idea is this money will be used towards certain random games. And if they make money and you are part of this, and you have to give them at least, I think it's $500. Yeah, $500 minimum to buy one of these Fig shares. Fig gets so much of the money and they give it out. So like first they get 40% of the sales receipts for the 16-month period until they make so much money back. And then it goes down to 20%, and it's, there's so many years. And then Fig pays their investors at least 85% of these revenues. So Fig keeps 15%, the investors get the rest split amongst them. And it doesn't tell you the games or when anything like that. So this is the kind of thing where I would be leery of for a couple reasons. One, you don't know what games you're really getting into. Two, they have not had a good track record, in my opinion, with the Intellivision Amico campaign. I don't think Fig or Republic has stood up for the investors. I think there's a lot of questions that the investors have been left in the dark about when it comes to the Intellivision. And I think, honestly, Republic should be looking into Intellivision under a microscope with what's going on to see if they've been hiding money that investors might be owed for games that they've licensed or sold or whatever. I think Fig or Republic needs to kind of stand up for their investors a little bit more, at least when it comes to the Amico campaign, just from what I observed. Also, Gen X Gamer did this video where he digs into the actual documents, the massive 100+ page document that goes into more detail, and he basically says this is not a good deal, according to him. Now, neither one of us are financial experts. This is not financial or legal advice for entertainment purposes only, but he knows more about this stuff than I do, and I tend to trust his opinion more than mine in this case. And he even found a part where they said, like, if Atari's in really dire financial straits, even if they have money to pay out, they may not pay it out. Something along those lines. You could check his video. It's called Atari and Republic Oh No. And that's from Gen X Gamer or Generation X Gamer. So this is a situation, this Fig campaign or this Republic campaign, where I would say if you are a massive Atari fan and you don't mind giving them a donation to help them out, make games, if you view it like that, maybe go ahead. If you want to pay $5,000 for a limited edition Fatal Run cartridge, well, go ahead. It's a free country. But if you're looking at this strictly as an investment, I don't know if this is going to be that great. It's interesting because Digital Eclipse did one of these, and I'm a big fan of Digital Eclipse games and what they've done. They did a Republic campaign, and there was some confusion among their investors. They did something similar, and there was confusion because they did a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle compilation, and someone was like, are we getting money for that? They're like, no, that campaign wasn't for that, but it is for the Atari 50th. And in May, you should be getting you'll be getting your first payout. So it'll be interesting to see how much money, if any, the investors made off of the Atari 50 collection and from the digital Eclipse. So that might be a good litmus test for the future, because Digital Eclipse made some games that have garnered some publicity around the retro gaming community and have seen some favorable reviews, gotten some mainstream coverage when it comes to gaming. So it'll be interesting to see how that turns out for them. Another thing that Gen X said is, why is Atari doing this? Why would you do this unless they're having financial troubles, which may be the case. So you have to ask yourself, why is Atari going to FIG? You can actually buy stock in Atari, Atari SA, Pong F, and you can see right now it's 14 cents a share, right? And you can see this is the past 5 years, and once they went above $1. Most of the time, they were like under the 50 cents a share line. And recently, you could see the shares have kind of dropped. They've gone down. I mean, they're not as low. They're not at the 10 cent point. So they've gone up 50%. They're at the 14 cent point, 15 cent point, somewhere around there. I'm not doing this right now. I don't plan to, but if I want to invest in Atari as a fan, I probably would look more into the stock side. But then again, now is FIG going to take some of the profits that would go to the stockholders, to the shareholders, right? So you have to ask yourself that too. So that's kind of the ugly side, the investing side. I'm a fan of the Atari brand. I want them to make good decisions, and I'd like to see them succeed because they make good decisions and make good games and good products and stuff like that. The Republic thing does not excite me. So I do wish the employees and Atari nothing but the best, but I do say kind of buyer beware, investor beware if you're thinking about going on Republic. If you think it's a good idea, go ahead and sign up. And I'd actually be interested to follow some people who become investors and let me know what kind of communication they get and what kind of money they make off of these games. It'll be interesting to see, 3, 4, 5 years down the line, how this turned out. So that's just my thoughts on some latest Atari news. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I will see you next time.